You're listening to the MLS Fantasy Insider, bringing you weekly tips, tricks, and advice for the official MLS fantasy game.
Hello everybody, and welcome to tonight's stream. It's gonna look a little weird for the beginning because Christian has had to restart. He had some crazy internet problems at the very beginning, so until he comes back, since Gene is here.
Recording in progress.
There we go. We have that going on. So we're gonna give Christian just a second to see about restarting his router. Let's see here. So what we have, the social is already out there on the Twitter, Blue Sky, X, whatchamacallits, everything's there. So I got it out there on Twitter X, got there out on Blue Sky. So if you have seen that, please be so kind and like and share and follow us along for that journey right there. And then it's gone out on the Discord as well. So hello everyone who may be joining us from Discord. I do a quick little volume check for people in chat just to make sure everything's going here. Yeah, Gene says it's good. Project Loon closed down, so the internet is so slow. Perhaps that could be it. At least our Loon Christian has closed down. So, but yeah, he's restarting his router. He's gonna be here. So good. Glad everything sounds good. I may get started in just a couple minutes, letting him give him a second. Start going through some of the general things, but yeah, definitely want to make sure we have some good discussion tonight, at least focused on the players, because the round starts tomorrow, y'all. So there we go. Had a good y'all. Haven't had that there, but yep. So glad to have Christian on with us. Let's see here. Just checking over my notes real quick. Let's see here. He said it could take a little. Pupperoo can do the pod if Christian. That's right. Well, Pupperoo is right here. I just got Pupperoo a new bed because you all can't see with the camera and everything. But yeah, Pupperoo's down here, and I didn't have a bed for her, so I felt bad, and I went out and I got one today. That was on sale. Just to make sure she had a little bit more comfortable place to have that here. She's got this chew stick that I would show you, but she has it right now. And it's a big orange gnaw stick with a blue ribbon around it. And Todd LaRue likes to call that one the Cincinnati stick. And I mentioned that after the show. She stopped for a second. Hey, can I have this? Thank you. There we got it. The little chew stick right here. And so I mentioned that after the show last week to Ashley, and she knew exactly what I was talking about. I said, yeah, Landon calls it the Cincinnati stick. And she was like, I've never realized that all those little chew balls and throw balls and those little sticks are blue and orange and are like Cincinnati. And now I cannot unsee it. And I was like, you're welcome. You're welcome. Doing the bidding for the people. There was right there. No sound or image here yet. Sorry. I think it's going well. I know Gene said he could hear. Sounds good. So we will just go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us. Christian, like I said, will be here in just a moment. You can probably see I've got the little spot set up for him right there underneath. And so when he comes in, he should just slide right in right there, and we will go. So we'll go ahead and get started. And when Christian comes in, he can just join the fun. Hello and welcome to the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of the Round 28 2025 MLS Fantasy Season Double Game Week. This episode is brought to you by Birthday Hat Tricks. Congratulations, Mueller. Well done. Huge win. Actually, brought to you by the amazing MLS Fantasy Patreon supporters. It's because of you that we can keep this project going. Find out more about that over at patreon.com/MLSFI. I'm your host, Reid Connolly from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and tonight I'm joined by my partner in fantasy, our special guest host, Christian Ward, who normally would say hello, Reid, nice to be here. It's great, but he has had to restart his internet during our live stream. So for those of you catching this after that, he'll be joining us a little bit later into the show. But yes, I promise you, Christian is actually here. And so as we have a little bit of vamping before I get to some short takeaways, as Christian joins us. Want to make sure people get this at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the show. This is a double game week. It is a single week that is a double game week, unlike our round 27 double game week. And it starts Tuesday. Tomorrow, if you're listening to the stream. Today, if you're listening to the recording that's out there. So you want to make sure that at least for some of those teams that are playing, you're getting them locked in quickly. Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday games. So lots of stuff. Be sure to check out those lineups. We'll go into it more during tonight's episode, but I want to make sure that if you just listen to the first few seconds of the show, that you are going to be going and knowing what's going on as we get started. So, as I said, Christian will be joining us in just a few minutes, but for those of you who are in with us during the live stream right now, let me know how you did with your fantasy scores from this past round. It was a good double game week. I know for me, I finished on 123 points, which was good enough to win most of my double game weeks. Lost in our Patreon head-to-head, 123 to 130, so that was a really, really good game there. Did win in the Pro Rel Championships League there against Sherry, and so that was a close one. And lost in our Discord head-to-head to Black and Red, who was just killing it this year as usual. There's Christian. He got 132, and I had 123. Welcome to the stream, Christian.
Hi. Sorry about that.
You are good.
I had technical difficulties.
You are all good. We are just getting into talking about our results from this past round. Gene has 127, so that was awesome. I finished on 123. I think that was a pretty respectable score. I know I mentioned that had a rough start to the year and haven't ever really recovered from that. So I'm sitting in like the mid 300s for as far as overall rank is, which is not where I shoot for every year. But like I said, this year it just hasn't clicked for me, and I know a lot of people have had that reaction. So I didn't connect on my defense. That was really what let me down right there. I had Houston, I had Chicago, I had a single game week going with San Diego, which did not turn out there. Wish I had stuck with my gut and left Takaoka in as my keeperoo, but I ended up just scrubbing completely and going with Turner because he had 5 points, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to get a clean sheet with some of what's left, and so I may as well just kind of take 5 and roll with it. So better than some of the other options could have been, but I really leaned into some of those New England players because you could preview their points before the end of the round. So that's why I went with that. So I had his points there. But on the positive side, I did end up making a scrub on my midfield so I could bring in Kuipers with his 10 points there. Otherwise, I had Heel, I had Zink, I had Lowen, had Wolf, had Klaus, had Jovelik, and so Kuipers. So pretty good results with my forwards right there. But as we know, there are always some people from single game week teams that make again. And this week it was Vancouver with just the amazing birthday hat trick from Mueller. It was fantastic right there. And then of course we had LA doing things and Charlotte coming up there with some big points with lots of those teams. So this was definitely a round where the single games had just some massive bonkers scores, and they ended up taking the cake from a lot of the double game week teams that we had. Doesn't always happen this way, but it definitely did happen this week as well. As far as some takeaways that I have, it was just massive to see that score from Vancouver, especially since they were going up against Philly, which is no slouch. I mean, they're leading the East, playing for some good stuff themselves. So just that massive result from Vancouver is why that people have gone back to them so much during the year, and that's still paying off in this late game. And then we're really seeing the value from LAFC and that battle for who do you want to have up top, and even the beginning of the conversation of do I want both up top for my LAFC players. And so that those points came through right there. I was surprised, and Christian, you can talk some more about this. I was surprised by Dane St. Clair's results. I mean, he had 12 saves during that game, so that's some massive points there. But I think the biggest keeper shock was just the ice in the veins with Messi trying to do the little cheeky stuff right there and getting that PK save. So not the best round for Messi, but a good result from St. Clair right there. But I think the biggest thing that we'll talk about, well, of course, last minute game winner from Evander. Have to mention it. Just amazing. A good little rebound right there. But a lot of the usual players putting up some points, which is good to see coming into the end of the season because we know some craziness is about to start with the Cup just around the corner. So I don't want to go on too much about this round because I want to save plenty of time for us to talk about the double game week. Christian, let me know, what did you take from this past week and how'd you do?
My therapist has told me that I shouldn't talk about it.
That's fine.
Mm-hmm. So I only scored 120 points. My big mistake was fading Marcel Hartel. I didn't think he was the greatest choice, and I wanted a fallback single game week scrubbable midfielder because I wanted all three of the forwards I had. I made a decision. I went with it. It bit me in the ass. So it's just 6-1. You have bad weeks. Well, 120 is not a bad week. It's just not as good as I was expecting. Like I was in third overall. I was pushing to make up a 20-point deficit behind first overall, and I ended up with a 50-point deficit. So, yeah, talk about ice water in your veins. I mean, you got to have it when you're in the top 5. But anyway, I also made a stupid mistake. I honestly, I was fairly sure that Seattle had a good clean sheet chance. So I doubled down on two Seattle defenders and did not allow any of my bench defenders in who scored 3 and 4 points respectively. Crappy scores, but they are better than a 2 and a 0, which is what Roldan and Kosariense got. So I lost out on a few points there. So yeah, I really kind of did not do myself any favors in that in the title chase, so to speak, for MLS Fantasy this week. The good news is there's 4 rounds left, and I could very easily turn it around. But I do have a pretty long row to hoe with 50 points. So that's going to be an issue. My goal is still to beat Eli, but it's not looking very promising. And I hesitate to even say that because the kid's ego is so enormous to begin with. That's a joke, actually.
It's good. No, it's. I mean, we have so many great people that are in the top of the overall standings, including yourself, Christian. And yeah, Eli being an author for us this year as well. Some great insights.
Yeah, he's doing really well.
And with hope, we'll be able to get him on the show maybe at the end since he's back at college doing some things. So have to have all of that.
He has lawns to mow.
He's got all sorts of things that are going on. But Christian makes a very good point. 4 rounds left. Don't forget, for those of you who are in leagues with it active, you're going to be having the playoffs starting so pretty soon. So depending on how it's set up with your league, they could have a playoff. You may not if you're just going to go with the overall table. Most of the leagues that we have just do the overall table, especially in the Pro Rel League, so we can make sure everything is set right there. But some of them do have the playoffs, so just keep an eye out for those. And it's fun. It's one of my favorite parts of the head-to-head leagues and the systems that we have. So please do check that out. Going over to chat, yeah, we got Kingdom FC with 133 points. Fantastic. Both head-to-heads for you. 127 from Gene. That's awesome. 108 for Eric. St. Louis players came up. Yeah, both St. Louis players did good. I mean, you mentioned Hartel, Christian, but Lowen also did well, just a few points behind him. So definitely some good results for St. Louis after a rough struggle for them at the beginning of the year as well. Chicago players did well as well. So yeah, good round, some good results. A few weird ones, but that's what happens with these 2-week rounds, call-ups. The good news is a lot of that's over. People are coming back, and so we can focus on this quick turnaround to get into double game week 28, and we'll be telling you all the little ins and outs you need to know about. about that, including players to target, coming up right after this.
You want me to quick mention what I posted in general chat?
Cards, yeah. I'll put that right there.
Bring that up here.
Just go. There we go. Put that there. Doing the thing. Don't have to make any changes. That's good. So good to have everybody on the show tonight. Love talking to you guys. Let me get the whoops. Hit that wrong button. Get the social out for the second part of the show. It goes quicker as we go through the season. Like the first part of the show just gets quicker and quicker. We can focus on really the nuts and bolts of what people want to talk about, and that's players. That felt like real. I don't know about you guys, but that line just then, that whole little cadence, that felt like really. Oh shoot, I forgot. Painter. Big.
Okay, back up. What now? I missed the first part of that.
The whole little cadence when I was like, here we go. We're gonna the first part of the show. Let's see.
Bob Ross.
Yes, Bob Ross. It had I just totally
Happy little trees.
It had a little happy little trees kind of feel right there. Yes, thank you, Gene. It had like a happy little trees feel right there, where it's like just gets slower, focusing on what we want to talk about right there with the players. Happy trees right there. Dust.
You are more positive when I'm not on the show. That's the truth.
Oh, I love that. Happy little double game week. There it is. Have to try to work in Bob Ross somewhere into the title of the show or something there. But yeah, happy little double game week. There we go. Happy bonus points. A little bit there. There we go. Just pull them down, and there's your bonus points. All right, let's do this. Hello and welcome back. We're talking about the players we're targeting going into double game week round 28. But first, a quick important housekeeping section. If you miss it at the top of the show, please do notice, if you haven't for some reason, but notice, games start on Tuesday, September 16th at 7:30 p.m. with Miami versus Seattle. The rematch of the League's Cup final, minus one player. But it's a big rematch. Miami is at home hosting Seattle. That starts on Tuesday. We then have games on Wednesday with New York City FC versus Columbus and Real Salt Lake versus LAFC. Those 6 teams are your double game week teams who are playing. Of them, Miami and New York City FC are the 2 teams with a double home game. But it's important to point out that RSL and LAFC play each other twice. It's just swap. Just travel different home teams. But they both play themselves twice this round. So that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on. Even though games start on Tuesday and Wednesday, we still have games on Saturday and Sunday. And I want to point out that the games on Saturday, this is not really your usual Apple TV lineup right here, because the first game, which is New York City versus Charlotte, kicks off at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So be sure to be up early for that one. That's a little bit earlier than we start. Then we have a 2:30 game against Philadelphia and New England Revolution, which is more normal. But then there's a 4:30 game as well with Atlanta hosting San Diego FC. So 3 early games that we don't usually see, that kind of 2:30, 4:30. It's usually one or the other from when I tend to think about how these games start. But then we hit into the whole 7:30, 8:30, 10:30 type lineup. But just what I want you to take away is on the Saturday, September 20th games, they do start early. So be sure to have your lineup set for them. And just like before, you will be able to preview all the points from New York City FC before you can really have to decide if you want those players. So they're great auto-roos, great switcheroos this round to keep an eye on. We do have 2 games also being played on Sunday at 7 and 9, Austin versus Seattle, and then again, Los Angeles and Real Salt Lake. So a whole spread this entire week of games as players are returning from their international duty. So it's going to be definitely something you want to keep up with and be sure to budget around. But that's not the only thing that you're going to need to plan around. We also have some important players on Disco Watch. So Christian, I'll throw that over to you.
Yeah, there are a couple of players. There's about 7 players on yellow card warning. So that means, you probably know this by now, but that means that if one of these players gets a yellow card in the game, their first game, that they won't be able to play the second game because they'll be suspended for the game. Those players are from Miami, Talasco Segovia and Marcelo Wygant. From Seattle, Jackson Reagan. From New York City, Maxi Morales. From LAFC, Denny Mwanga, Timothy Tillman, and Sergey Palencia. Those guys are all pretty integral to LAFC, I think. Luis Suarez is suspended for both games of this double game week. And Tomas Aviles is suspended for the first game. And that is pretty much all the suspensions I could come up with this afternoon before they came out with the suspension list. So I haven't checked that. I could check that now, but you could too. So
sorry, I got Eli in the chat, just giving him a little bit of a hard time about trying to join us on the show. No, that is good news, important news. It definitely impacted some of the picks that I was making for my team, so be sure to keep up with the disco right there. And of course, the one that Christian didn't mention that we all should be well aware of is, of course, Suarez is on the suspension and will not be there for Miami. But if for whatever that is, lots of thoughts on that. But we covered that in previous weeks. So we'll just keep moving right on. The last thing I want to mention before we jump into our players is I want to talk about the teams who have made it into MLS Cup. If you check out the standing section of MLSsoccer.com, you will see those teams listed with an X next to their name. They're starting to grow, but you'll also see a few teams, only in the East though, who will have an E next to their name because they have been eliminated. Those are the ones I want to mention: Toronto, Atlanta, DC United, and Montreal. That list has added Atlanta and Toronto now. They are out of the Cup competition, so their season will end in a few short weeks. So be sure to pay attention to the kind of lineups that they roll out. So they may just play for pride coming into the end, but they may have some players that rest. They may have some younger players who get a few little minutes as they're trying to sort of share that experience around. So keep an eye on those lineups for those teams because it could have a huge impact on the points that you get with your fantasy players. Over in the West, San Diego, Minnesota, and Vancouver have all made it into the Cup. Everybody else is still in play. Yes, even LA Galaxy with their just 21 points for the season still has a mathematical chance of making it into a playoff spot. So keep an eye on that. There's a lot still to play for out in the West. And to note, no team has yet clinched the number one spot for their conference. So no one has that yet. So even these teams, when you look at the top with the X by their name, they still have things to play for. They want that home field. They want to get that advantage. So be sure to remember that just because they have the X doesn't mean that it's just time to take your foot off the gas. They're going to be playing for those number one spots. So, but that is becoming more and more important as we get into the finals of the year. And don't forget, the top four teams have the home field advantage for round one in the best of three series. So there's lots still riding on the line for these teams of why they're going to be playing and pushing near the end of the season, which is good. We want the teams to kind of push near the end of the season so that they have some fun games for us. It's always good right there. Okay.
I also wouldn't want to underestimate any of the eliminated teams.
No, that's true. No, and that's fair. And that's why I always try to focus on paying attention to their lineups because they don't have to. It's just as you get closer to the end of the season, you may not. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen there be rotation. We've seen people come in and do that. But it does not by any means, Christian makes a very good point, mean that they will roll out a C team or that they won't still be trying to play for at least just pride on there that they've been eliminated, but maybe they can stick it to a rival or just somebody else and not get as high. So it's always unsure, but I think important to point out. Okay, now let's talk about the players who we're looking at for this quick turnaround into double game week 28. So Christian, who are you looking at starting as always with keepers and defenders?
Well, first I need to make my mouse work. Okay. Man, it's not a good technical night for me. All right. Keepers. I've got Freese into Takaoka. I don't think Freese is ideal, but he's on a double home. And I'm certainly not going to take whoever, Rocco Rios Novo, for Miami. I'm not going to take him. So now watch, he's going to get 2 clean sheets and I'm going to be a fool. And then for defense, and okay, so like I could take Freeze and then I could pivot to Loris if I wanted to, but LAFC has been a lot like Minnesota. They don't keep clean sheets. I mean, they keep more than Minnesota, but they don't. Like, I don't see a clean sheet in either of the LAFC games because RSL seems to have upgraded their attack quite a bit. So that's why I'm hesitant to just roll into another double game with keeper after freeze. So Takaoka, is he going to get clean sheet? I don't know. He's away at Sporting Kansas City. They seem to be very motivated in Vancouver. So I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say Tak is probably a pretty good bet. For defenders, I have what's his name? Justin Hawk, like a loogie.
Oh my gosh.
And I faded Hawk the last double game week in favor of, I think I took O'Toole or somebody like that from New York. And boy, did I get smacked around for fading him. Anyway, I'm not going to make that mistake again. Of course, he scored, but whatever. Hawk, Alba is my second double game week defender, and I'm also going to opt for Hollingshead, even though what I just said, I'm not taking Hollingshead for the clean sheet, though. I'm taking him for his plucky attackingness mojo. Juju. That's why you take Hollingshead. But anyway, I also have 2 single game week defenders. I'm going to go 5 at the back, by the way, 5 at the back, because like I think having the option, setting your team up to have the option for that 5 at the back auto-roo, I think is a smart play in these double game weeks, because you could always take like another like attacker that you can scrub later to make sure, like you have the option to switcheroo. But the auto-roo thing is especially if you're not confident in your attackers. Like midfield this week, I think is pretty weak. So that's why I'm going 5 at the back. Anyway, I've got Kai Wagner and Ali Ahmed as my fallback defenders. Wagner's at home. He's very, very pissed off about getting beat by 7 goals in Vancouver. And I have a feeling that the man will either channel that rage into like scoring goals or assisting goals, or he will get a red card and I will be in pain. Ali Ahmed looked great in that match. Ali Ahmed looked better than great in that match. I'm just flabbergasted, speechless. You wish I was more speechless, don't you?
No, never.
All right, go ahead.
Never. So very similar. I think that Christian nails it. That Freese is absolutely the number 1 double game week keeper that you're going to want to have this week, for the simple reason that you can see all of his points before you have to decide on which keeper that you want to go with for your backup. And I said the same thing last week when I talked about New England, and that's we always talk about how we want 2 bites on the apple when we're trying to get some of these double game week players, and that's why we do these aroos. But with the keeper, again, this is 3 bites at the apple. You get to see all of those points as long as you go with him, because that 12 o'clock game is a small caveat. We'll finish around that 2:30 time when Philly and New England start. So if you wanted to go with one of those keepers, you probably couldn't. but everybody else is in play for the single game week teams, and so it just makes sense. Then going down through the list, I agree that even on the road, Vancouver, Sporting Kansas City, just the record and the form that Vancouver has makes them, I think, the standout. A flyer could be with Dallas. I mean, you're coming in with one clean sheet on the road. Colorado's a little bit of struggle, but they've been getting some production as well since Jordy's left, so that's kind of risky. I'd be hesitant to go with Orlando, which might be a team that we would normally look at for some defensive solidity, because Nashville is a potent attack right there with Mukhtar and Sturridge. So unsure about that one being a typical fallback right there. Of course, Minnesota, you only had one goal on the road last week, Christian, but Chicago on the road, we've seen them have that production right there, and so there's risk there as well. And of course, we know
don't take a Minnesota United defender or keeper.
I'm not advocating for it. I'm just going through some of the list.
Unless it's like a wing back with attacking upside. We haven't kept a clean sheet since May.
There we go, right there. So which leads to Vancouver being one of the more likely teams it's going to have for your clean sheet. So I think it's a good shot for that back end of your keeperoo and see what goes on right there. So that's samesies that I have with Christian, and not a lot of difference with the defense either. I want a New York City player. I'm going to go with Alba. I want to have a Vancouver player. I want to have an LAFC player. Then my fifth player was a bit different. I mean, I have Roldan right now. I can definitely see the logic of going with Wagner. I think you could potentially go with a Columbus player that's kind of rough. I don't think of them as a clean sheet powerhouse, and so you're hoping to get some offensive option there, which doesn't jump out at me. But maybe something could happen with Toronto for you. Maybe you could get some points there, but they're not high on my list right there. Otherwise, you could go with some of the other single game week keepers that we've looked at, single game week defenders that we looked at before. I do think that Wagner stands out as one of the better options of the single game week keepers that you would pick. And yeah, and we can see what happens.
Can I add something?
You absolutely can.
Someone mentioned in chat, and it's kind of reminds me, we've had this go around a little bit about what we are calling the 3 Peru.
The 3 Peru.
And that's the 3 Peru.
Okay.
And this is where you can see, and this is a perfect week to do it because we have 3 different days of games. Actually, we have 4. So you could actually go and put like Schulte on your bench. If he fails the first game, you put Freese on starting, but then you're able to decide whether or not you want Freese or not, and then you would go with a single game week. And that's sort of like what we were talking about a little bit in chat like a couple of weeks ago. And it's a weird thing. It's not intuitive. It's like, but you have more choices than just going with a 2 double game weeks or whatever. You can go and forego Freese in that and put a single game week keeper in. But I'm not really explaining this very well. So I'm just going to shut up about it and then let people mock me and correct me for it. But if Ron, Half Century City is like listening to this, please chime in and tell me again how this works. I thought I had it sorted out before I started.
So are you saying,
I really don't.
Like I just said at the beginning of the show, you get 3 bites of the apple by going with a double game week keeper and a single game week keeper. That's not what you mean. That's not a 3 Peru. You're saying 3 options, so you could go with 2 double game weeks, which gives you 1 and 1.
Spots.
Right. 2 double game weeks, which gives you 1 and 1. Or you could go with a double game week and a single, which locks you in the Freeze. Or you could forego the double game weeks at all and just do a keeperoo with 2 single game week keepers. Is
Yeah,
that what you're saying?
and
Because of the Sunday and the Saturday games.
I'll have to actually go back and look. It's a viable thing, and I'm not explaining it right. It's a viable thing that gives you like one extra little option if you need to.
Sure, sure. It's
Like
a
as a
viable
fallback.
thing. I mean, I'd add. I mean, why don't we just don't call it the quartet of keepers? Because I mean, then you could just go with a single game week keeper or a double game week keeper on its own, and not even worry about it. So I
You
don't know.
could, but I'm just saying.
To me, that just seems like classic keeper root.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm backpedaling hard here, because the more I talked about it, the more I thought, well, Jesus, Christian, that's just a keeper root. But there is,
I'm a
but
root purist.
it totally made sense when we were talking about it in chat.
This is
like
the new. There's no such thing as a triple auto root, switcheroo. There's no such thing. Jason.
No, you can't. You don't have 3 keeper spots on your team, but there's, I don't know what the hell. Just forget. Edit that whole section out.
No, we're keeping it. Vote in chat right now.
No, yeah,
I'm gonna put a vote in the chat
live it down.
about we're gonna start a poll to keeping that section or not. And while we're doing that, we're gonna move on to talking about midfielders. Christian, who do you have?
Let's see. Let's see. We Rodrigo de Paul is pretty much a lock for me. The Rusnak is a lock for me. There's some question whether Rusnak is going to sit. I'm voting no, damn it.
You're welcome to vote no. I'm voting yes.
Why won't it let me vote? Okay. All right. Anyway, there's some question as to whether Rusnak is going to get rested or his minutes managed or whatever, since he's coming back from injury. Given the fact that Seattle needs to clinch a playoff spot, and given the fact that Seattle probably wants to go for one of those top 4 spots in the West, I can't see him resting Rusnak at all. Like, he might get 60 and 60. I don't think he gets less than 120 minutes in this double game week. That's my take. I don't think he sits on the bench to start in either game. I think you're fairly safe. He is his X guy factor, his X guy stat is huge. And I don't think he rests. Diego Luna is on my team. I really believe that he has a good chance at a good score. And this is where it gets really muddy. Daniel Gazdag with Columbus, he finally figured out how to play football again with his new side. But the problem is Rossi is out injured. He's confirmed out, like he's going to be out for 4 weeks. Diego Rossi. And so that throws a big monkey wrench in Columbus's attack. Now, does that favor Gazdag? I don't know. Who's on set pieces now? Like, is that going to be Chambos or is that going to be Gazdag? I imagine it would be Gazdag. He's got a hell of a record taking penalty kicks. I don't know about corners. He'll probably take some free kicks. But here's the thing. I think he's worth a bench spot, Gazdag, just because he has sort of turned on lately. His confidence is higher than it was, and they started figuring stuff out. Plus, they have Wessam in the side too. He's a quality striker. Maybe they bring Chambos up to where that Rossi role was, and they work it out. They do have a game against Toronto. That's very appealing to me. So I'm willing to stick him on my bench. So that leaves the 5th spot. And, my gut is screaming, go Nico Fernandez. Wolf has kind of dropped off lately. He didn't really look very involved, and his scores are pretty bad. And So hear me out with Nico Fernandez. Nico is probably not the greatest pick in the world, but given the fact that he's got 2 home games, he's like a Hartel-esque kind of performance player, like where, Hartel's in the middle, but that's the only difference. Like they're still playmakers, both of them. Nico's on the wing, but Hartel's in the middle. Hartel's been like really bad form lately, and then all of a sudden on a double game week, he just pops off for a bunch of points. I think having 2 home games will help New York City, and I think that it'll help Nico Fernandez, and especially since Maxi Morales is on yellow card warning. If Maxi gets a yellow card, that will probably push Nico Fernandez into the middle, and he will have control of the attack. I think, like somebody in chat, correct me if I'm wrong, Gene, have at it. Tell me I'm wrong about that. But that's my theory. Now, if that's too convoluted or whatever, I'm just going to stick Thomas Mueller and say, and run a switcheroo instead of an auto-roo. But if I want both those games from Fernandez, I'll just do a straight auto-roo and take the best 2 off out of 3 on my bench, I think.
No, that's a great approach to that. And just so it's known, the vote for the poll has been no. We're not keeping in the conversation that Christian had about the 3 Peru. So if you're listening to this recording, you'll have to go to the YouTube stream to see that. So enjoy. A special little treat right there. Again, similar line of thought I have. This is a round where I think, unlike last week, talking about how there were definitely some good opportunities for single game week players, I think you've got a good selection of double game week players here to really fill out your team and doing some of those aroos, like Christian was saying, for the players. Same thing as well, looking at Rusnak, looking at Gazdag, looking at Luna, pretty quickly added in there. Had Wolf, don't like Wolf. Nico, definitely the better option there. DePaul, a go-to. Kind of waiting just to see that Miami lineup, see what comes out from there, but I figured DePaul is good to go. Same line of thought as you, Christian, with the Rusnak. They need those points. They really need to have that that presence there to get over the line, and so I do expect to see him as well on the team. I am unsure about Columbus in general, I like Mueller. I think Mueller's a great single game week player to fall back on, again, with just the form that he's been having. And of course, you could look at some of the other go-tos that we've had, but I think we start to get a little bit out of the tiers. But I did want to mention I saw in chat people mention Shambost being on set plays and being things. He just doesn't produce points, and so that's why like I'd roll the dice on Gazdag. He's got a little bit of form, like you were saying, Christian. 2 goals and 1 assist over his last 3 games, or at least he's had production in 2 of his last 3 games that were going to double digits right there. And that Toronto game is definitely, I think, tempting, especially without Rossi. He has a chance to be a focal point, but will that work for him? Because he has struggled, and so I'm willing to roll the dice on Gazdag because of past quality. I've just not seen that with Shambos. The couple of times I did go with him, not a lot of points, and I don't know if he's cracked 5 maybe over the past several games. I'd have to go and look at his points, but he's just not producing, and so
he gets 4 points more often than he gets more. Like, I have him for draft. I had him for draft. I still have him, even though I'm eliminated. He is not for the fantasy MLS game. Like he's a good 4th floor player, but he's not going to put you over the top.
Sure. So, great things for his team, but fantasy, not so much. But yeah, so I think you have a lot of options right there.
Now watch, he's going to score.
Well, you see, and again, I think you could go with another single game week player if you want to go with like Ojeda or someone with those. Just anybody you want to throw in there, because I think you could, like Christian was saying, you could have your 5 in the bag, but I think you could have a safe scrub spot here if you wanted to go with some forward options, because I do think you have at least 4 or 5 potential forward options that you could throw in there from double game week teams that maybe could compete with a lackluster double game week midfielder or a lackluster single game week player that you're considering. Of course, we'll touch on that in a second, but I do think you could leave a flex spot right there if you wanted to have 2 single game week players, just so you could preview some more points, and before you decide on what you want to do. So going to chat real quick. Yeah, again, same players were there: DePaul, Luna, Rusnak, Nico. Yeah, there was a Shamboast. I don't know. That's just my take of Shamboast. As always, if he does well, please come back to the next show and brag. That is part of how this works. All right, well, let's move on and talk about those forwards, because Christian, you probably are following the same lane of thought that I am. So who are you looking at?
Well, of course, you got to have the GOAT, Messi. 2 home games, one of them being against DC United.
Yup.
If you don't take Messi and cap him, Jesus, you're not doing it right. So I don't care that he got 1 point and he missed a penalty last week. I don't care, and neither does he. Okay, like, you're flirting with absolute disaster if you don't take him. That said, I have, even though he's on yellow card warning, I have Denny Buanga. I, unlike Eli, do not like RSL's defense, especially away. I also have Hungmin Son. Oh, geez. Sorry, I'm turning into you, Reid. Hungmin Son.
He played on Tottenham. I had that one.
I would know.
He played on Tottenham. I had that one.
He's been in the EPL forever. I would know how to say that. I keep wanting to call him Sangbin Jong. Wonder why. Anyway, Hungmin Son is definitely on my side, on my team. I like the matchup. RSL can be pretty stiff at home. Like, they don't allow too many goals at home, but away is pretty good. And LAFC also, they have this thing where they're trying to clinch and they're trying to get, and they have a lot of games in hand. So they're going to make the most of it. I cannot see a situation where they lay back and accept defeat,
Yeah, they want that home field advantage.
Yeah. So count on them bringing all guns, and holy cow, Buanga. You thought, Mueller was good last week, but Buanga, he scored 19 points, had a hat trick. So he's definitely, he's on my bench in case he gets that yellow card, but he's definitely on my team. And I want to also say something about deciding which position you're going to put a scrubbable player in. A lot of people will do this for forwards. They will scrub a forward. And traditionally, that's been a pretty sound automatic thing to do, because forwards are streaky. Forwards are a little more volatile. They don't generate as many bonus points as midfielders. Therefore, you want to index on keeping your midfielders intact. Having 5 good ones is good, and then scrub a forward. The problem is when matchups come into play and form comes into play, and things like if you have 3 viable forwards who are going to score or generate bonus points, then all bets are off. So I think it's pretty reasonable to scrub a mid this week, or have a mid scrub option this week, because you have a pretty weak lineup of midfielders that are on double game week. We're talking about DePaul. He hasn't exactly lit it up. Okay. He's not anywhere approaching like an Evander or whatever. Like, so that's my my little lecture about choosing which position is best to scrub in a particular double game week. A lot of people just knee jerk. That's always going to be a forward. I don't think that way. So
Yeah, no, it's good to explore all the options. You've touched on the main talking point for this position, and Kingdom FC and Gene both highlighted in our chat right now, and that is, do you double up with LAFC, or do you spread that love and bring in Muzovsky? Because that's really the main two conversation pieces that we're having. Is it Messi, Sonny, and Muzovsky, or is it Messi, Sonny, and Bouanga? I mean, we could throw in Martinez in there if you want to. New York City, good forward. Hasn't done well in double game weeks. I want to add, hasn't done well for some reason there, but he could be in the conversation. But those
both
are the
games
two.
are at Yankee.
Both games are at Yankee. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. It's an absolutely bonkers kind of field, an absolutely bonkers kind of a potential right there. But those are the two main combinations of players that people are mulling over in their minds right now for how that is going to work out. And it really just comes down to your preference. When I first approached it, I immediately added in Son and Bouanga and Messi, and that's who I had.
Yeah.
I got a little bit of cold feet about the yellow card, even though I think Bouanga is more disciplined to really have to worry about that in that first game against RSL, knowing what's on the line. I feel better about him than some of the others. I reworked some things and have Musovski in my team right now, partly because just of all the bananas things that happened with Miami, to see what happens here in this rematch. And then I feel pretty good about that Austin game, but I am concerned about the double road and how that's going to play on them, because that's a big hit. So I may end up going back to Bouanga. It's a reason for you to consider.
Plus,
go ahead.
Well, plus, sorry to interrupt, but plus you've got De Rosario sitting there.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that
Yeah.
Musovsky starts both games, but De Rosario's got to come in at some point, and so Musovsky might only get 120 minutes.
It's very true.
He might even get benched the second game. I mean, it's not, I don't see it happening, but it's possible. And they're away. Now, they're away to Inter Miami, which can be a mixed bag, right? Like Miami, their defense has been decent at home. They do have a couple of suspensions, blah, blah, blah. But, they're also fighting for a clinch. And
that could be a game where maybe you give your players some protection. Maybe they don't play the whole time because you want to kind of keep hotheads under wraps too. I mean, and right. Smetzer rotates. Like, he is not afraid to do that.
He does. No question, Musovsky is probably even more goal potent than Son. Okay? Like, if I were to switch somebody out for Musovsky, it would be Son. All right? It really would. Because Son, he doesn't pop off for big scores. He just gets his 8 to 12 to 15, he might score, he might assist. But here's the thing. He's always pretty consistent and consistently in the attack. So that's why he's in my team now. But yeah, I thought about Musovsky. I don't think that 2 road games, can he do it? Yes, absolutely he can do it, especially if Rusnak's there. I can imagine it happening. But his second game is away to Austin. Austin, it's Texas. It's going to be butt hot. It's going to be like, Seattle doesn't do well in Texas. They just don't. I mean, like, I'm just going to go out on a limb and just say, yes, if you have Musovsky, I think it's a good pick. Is it a better pick than Son? I don't know that. I don't think it is. So that's why I have Son.
And I can't argue with that. I mean, there are five players, and we covered those four right there. You mentioned in chat, or not in chat, you mentioned in your comments about Martinez with 2 times at Yankee Stadium. He is a great player. Definitely understand any of those lines of logic as to why you want to pick those players. I easily understand the risks as well as why you wouldn't. And so perhaps this is just a cop out, but I don't have a final pick for that. I think the main two, like we said, is going to be Sonny Boanga Messi or Sonny Messi Musovski. I think Martinez is going to be kind of the odd man out with those rotations.
Well, I picked Martinez before in double home games, and he shat the bed.
Well, that's the
he's
like
so inconsistent.
Yeah,
you can't rely on him.
His past double games.
Does that mean he's going to shit the bed this week? Probably not. Like, he's probably going to get a nice round score, but we saw. I mean, last week, we had pretty good forwards to choose from. 2 of them completely blanked. Like in the second game.
I mean, we've got it in chat too. The double travel for Seattle, that's a lot of miles. Miami's leaky. And so like we've got them back and forth. So I get it. The safest one I would say is double up on LAFC and Messi.
Yeah, even though there's one home game. Yeah.
Probably the chalk. That's probably the chalk of the forwards. But great talking points for forwards. We'll very interested to see who everybody ends up going with at the end of the round. It could be what sets you apart from your head-to-heads and from where you end up in the rankings, because this is a good point to discuss, and it's one that you're going to have to decide Tuesday. That's it. Yeah. You've got to pick it by Tuesday. So that's what it is. All right, you already teased this a little bit, Christian, but let's wrap up everything with captains. Who are you picking, and if not Messi, who?
I get why somebody would not captain Messi. I mean, the whole point of this game is to have fun. And if that makes it more fun to you to pick a differential captain and see them work out, and if the risk of completely tanking the last few weeks of your season gets you going, then by all means don't captain Messi. But let's be honest, if you know the man at all from watching him for years, he is not going to blank this week. So if you don't, unless he's injured. If he's injured, then that's a different story. But I don't think he's injured. I think he's fully fit. So it's the only thing that could take me off of him as a captain is if he's injured.
I love Gene's comment that says Messi, and if not Messi, then Messi. And so that's so for real, Messi, yes, is my number one pick. If not Messi, then I would go with Sonny. That's where I would go. I think he's got the momentum. It's going back and forth with Messi or with Sonny and Boanga, but I'm liking Son. So biased. I mean, what can I say? Biased, but yeah, if it's not Messi, it's him. I don't think you have to go with the midfielders. I don't think they're better for the lineup that you have here. And if you don't go with Sonny, I mean Boanga. I mean, that's how I would kind of go back and forth between it. So that's where it would be. There we go. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. It's a quick turnaround, so I hope that was helpful information to help you get your teams ready to go for this round 28 coming in near the end of the season now. It's round season 11 for the show has just flown by. So hope you guys found that helpful. We will have articles coming out just as quick as we can tomorrow to get all that out there. Let's wrap up everything with some plugs. Christian.
As always, I'll plug the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord community. It's really good. You should be a part of it and be there or be square. I don't know.
Love it. And I will then plug MLSFantasyBoss.com. It's been a little bit kind of weird with some of the schedules lately with posting of the articles, but check it out. Team Ranchinator. We've got our fantasy clinic. We've got Eli when he's got time from school. We've got, of course, Christian posting the rankings as well, filling in for where Eli's dad left us with the change from MLS coverage this year with the power rankings. So be sure to check out MLSFantasyBoss.com and get that info there. So thank you so much again for joining us. And as always, good luck.
Recording stopped.
I can't believe I brought that up.